Patricia Graham is a lawyer turned astute newspaper woman. She dipped her inky toes into the precarious world of journalism 20-some years ago. As we know, much has changed and is rapidly changing in the news and infotainment delivery world. Patricia is the former editor-in-chief of the Vancouver Sun newspaper and the current vice president of digital for Pacific Newspaper Group. And it is my pleasure to welcome Patricia Graham to Studio 4 to tell us more.
Good morning, Fanny. Thanks for having me.
Gave up law and defending bad guys, or
Gave up law is actually mostly matrimonial litigation that I did, so it was a bit different from defending bad guys, depending on which side you were on, I guess.
Exactly,
yes.
Because family law can be pretty dicey,
it can
as
be pretty
you know.
Tough. Yep.
So digital, how exciting. Take me back to your beginnings, and then we'll go to the whole new world you inhabit.
Okay. Well,
how did you start in the news biz?
I started in the news biz. I gave up my law practice for a summer job at the Globe and Mail, and I guess I was young. I didn't have any encumbrances, so I could sort of take a leap like that, and at the end of the summer they hired me on. And I basically stayed in the business from that time on, just taking time off to have kids and look after the babies and so on. And I started out here at the province, in fact, which was a lot of fun. And then I moved to the Sun in 1991 and just sort of kept working my way up, and eventually in 2003 became the editor of the newspaper.
That's impressive. You were a copy editor, you've been a reporter, you've been an editorial page writer. Tell me about editorial page writing.
Best job in the business. It's such a wonderful job because you really have time to think, you have time to explore issues, you are on top of things all the time. You're on top of current events and news, and that's really exciting. And you get to meet and talk to a lot of interesting people. It's a very special job. I would say not quite as much fun today as it was when I did it because of course all newsrooms have contracted somewhat. So, the amount of thinking time that editorial writers once had even before me has been reduced somewhat, but I think it's still it's a great job.
And how much freedom do you have? Example, does the publisher call you up and say, excuse me, but that was a little slanted to the right or the left or too much in the middle? Or do they care? As long as they give you the job, they let you do what you do.
It really depends. All the publishers are different. And I've never encountered that kind of publisher. So basically there's an editorial board. It's a group of editorial writers, always the editorial page editor, the editor of the newspaper as well. And they talk about the issue and they decide what the position of the newspaper will be. Publishers, they don't hire an editorial page editor that they might feel was going to surprise them or go somewhere unfortunate. And if you're doing your job well, you're not going to surprise your boss. And if you're
that right.
If you're writing about something that is going to be sensitive, or you think they'll want to know ahead of time, well, you better just talk to them about it. But I found the publishers very reasonable in terms of listening to the editorial board members and allowing them to make the decision.
Okay, so 100 years ago, it was called the Sun. Now it's called the Vancouver Sun. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Yes,
100 years strong. No kidding. I loved the Feb 11 edition.
It was
taking
marvelous.
us back.
Yes. A lot of drunks and reprobates in journalism's past, wouldn't you say?
No kidding. I used to hang with them. I bet you did too. Well, I don't know. You might be too young. But yes,
I came to Vancouver too late for that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh no, I spent a lot of time in the smoky bars, and and heard the tales coming out of the Sun newsroom, typewriters being thrown, copy being ripped up, and booze in the bottom drawer, all of that.
I missed all of that. I missed it totally. So.
Yeah, mad men, a few mad women.
A few mad women.
Yeah,
yes.
not as many.
Yeah, they would have had to have been very tough, those women.
And they were. One Marjorie Nichols knew her well.
Oh, she was wonderful, wasn't
insightful.
She? Yeah.
All of that.
Amazing person.
What it takes. Vaughn Palmer too. But I think he was covering rock and roll.
I know. Isn't that funny to think of? Yeah.
So, high-tech, high-touch, instant information. Take me there, the digital side of the news business today.
Okay. Well, for the Sun newsroom, I think it really started in 2007, where we had an opportunity to send what's called pagination, which is the mechanical preparation of the page, the drawing of the page, if you will, to have it done at a sister property rather than in the newsroom. And to be able to do that meant that we could free up resources for creating content, and especially creating digital content. So it was at that time, 2007, that I decided the Sun newsroom better get digital and better get there as fast as we could. So, you know, we spent a lot of time planning our strategy and our goals and how we were going to get there, and spent a lot of time communicating to the newsroom. And, you know, it's funny when I look back, I think, you know, in the fall, I talked to the newsroom, had a big address to the newsroom, talking to them about what was coming and how we were going to change. And I said, we're not a newspaper anymore, we're a newsroom. And for some of them at that time, that was scandalous. That was just not on at all. And it seems hilarious now.
Only 5 years ago.
Only 5 years ago. So, you know, we put some of our best and brightest people onto the digital side, onto the website, and I think that really helped. And, you know, the writers themselves, the journalists, took to it very quickly, because, which wasn't really what we were expecting. For them, this is a whole new way to tell stories. It's a whole new audience. They have new tools. They can use video. They can use photo slideshows and things like that. So.
And as you know so well, the very best stories that are written are the ones that are edited. I don't mean they're short, but they're edited very well. So you tell the story cleanly, clearly, who, what, when, where, and why. You being an editor know that, and the brilliant columnists who write the columns tug at your heart, yes, but they also are brilliant writers,
Beautiful
really,
writers.
mostly.
Absolutely.
Mostly.
Absolutely.
Yes. 90% of all original news originates in traditional newsrooms today. Is it true?
There was a study by the Pew Center that indicated that. So they studied all of the news outlets in a city, I can't remember now, was it Pittsburgh or Baltimore? This was 2 or 3 years ago. And they found that 80% of news is kind of commodity news. In other words, 20% of news is original news that only one news outlet has. The rest is shared content, you know, the news that's out there that everybody kind of covers. Of the original news, 90% of it originated in newspaper newsrooms in that city.
And there's a feeling amongst the boomers that you can trust the news that originates there. When something pops up on a tablet or online, there's always that question.
I hope there's always that question. There should be always that question.
Not, of course, when it's the Vancouver Sun or the New York Times.
Blogosphere. It's the blogosphere, and I think that I don't want to diss the blogosphere. I think it's an important way of sharing information, and I think the sharing of information today is a wonderful, wonderful thing that's happening. But to have newsrooms that actually vet content, that make an attempt to do their best to make sure they're getting things right, it's a great thing. You know, it's wonderful that we can rely on that.
So when we have an emerging scandal in Canada, and perhaps we don't, but perhaps we do, called robocalls.
Yes.
Yes. What changes now that even monkeys have tablets in the zoo? And people are accessing information on their phones, and there's all of that. What changes in a newsroom about breaking news? Keep me up to date. Who did what where?
Everything is immediate. You have to be in the moment. And we do know that people rely on us, on our website, and on our mobile platforms, and on our tablets for breaking news. That is the #1 reason that people come to us in the digital realm. So there is no point saving things for the newspaper. Even if you save them, they're going to be on the radio the next morning anyway. So there's no point. So everything is immediate, and then you try and update as the story develops. That's pretty much, and you try to create packages of content too. So not just the story of the day, whatever's breaking on, say, robocalls, but the related content around it that might be helpful to people. Yeah.
So yesterday, after the newspaper landed in my driveway, Davy Jones died.
Yes.
One of the monkeys gone. One of my favorite monkeys, the cutest monkey. Certainly not on the front page here, but I went immediately to my phone to find out what happened to him.
That's fabulous. Isn't that great? You're with the program, Fanny. That's good.
Yeah.
Do you use your phone most or the website? Which is your?
I read this.
Okay. First and foremost.
First and foremost. If something happens that I care about, I will definitely go to my phone.
Yeah, yeah, that's great.
To the app. I don't have one of these. We borrowed this.
This is
I
a
have a
nice
laptop,
one. This is
but
version 2.
I don't have the snazzy tablet yet.
Yeah, they're great. They're great.
But the pictures, all of that, when you say to a reporter or a columnist, we are now digital, I want you to change your story in this particular way, or do you do that?
Yes, we do that, and I think so. What we asked people to do ultimately was to try to create content in several ways. So breaking news doesn't have to be a huge long story. Just give people the important stuff. Add to it during the day, or blog on it if that's your preference. Try and tweet out. Try and actually tweet out for people sometimes to get the audience to give you ideas or information for your story. And ideally, ultimately, end up at the end of the day with a story that's somewhat different for print. Now, you know what? They can't do all of that in one day, but they can do parts of it in one day, and they will always have to create the story for the digital platform and the print platform.
Okay, and I am assuming you can track it. In other words, if I go to my New York Times app, there are certain columnists that I read.
Right.
I suspect the New York Times is tracking me reading Frank Rich, but I don't know that.
Not you personally. They would have metrics on audience, eyeballs, if I can put it that way, and time spent and so on, which is another fabulous thing about the digital realm, is that you can respond to your audience. There's an immediate feedback loop, which is one of the things the Sun Newsroom started doing, is following the metrics. How many people are interested in this story?
Right.
And if there's a lot of interest there, that's the story that you try to keep developing for them and keep it prominent.
So great feedback. In other words, we have a C. difficile outbreak at the hospital. We have the teachers going on strike, a hockey trade here or there, Davy Jones dead, old age security being tweaked, all of that. So you can decide what people really want.
Yeah, we can get immediate feedback. So
some surprises there. We'll take a break and come back, because there probably are.
Yes,
you know,
there
you think
are.
everybody wants to know about the teachers striking, but who really wants to know are the parents.
That's right.
Pretty
There
much. You know, and some of the union leaders, but the parents.
Yes, I agree.
We'll come back with Patricia Graham.